How corrupt is your country? The most corrupt countries in Asia. Corruption is one of the leading causes and consequences of endemic political instability. It is reported that Somalia is the most corrupt country in the world, receiving a corruption score of 9. Welcome to 3M News. On today's countdown, we will be talking about the most corrupt countries in Asia. This is coming from the data of Transparency International, a widely accepted barometer. The lower the score, the more corrupt a country is perceived to be. But before we start, be sure to subscribe and click on the bell icon for more interesting videos. Number 10 spot, on the list, is shared by China, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka. China has a population of over 1.4 billion people, and corruption, government secrecy, and lack of transparency are major problems in China. China is an authoritarian government, and is accused of numerous human rights violations, including control and censorship of media. Indonesia has a population of over 273 million people, and corruption occurs at all levels in both the public and private sectors, and is visible and expected form of behavior. Petty corruption remains a problem in Sri Lanka, with a 21 million population. Sri Lanka has a weak whistleblower protections that have negative impacts on citizens' willingness to stand up against corruption. Number 9. Thailand, Philippines, and Bahrain. These three countries received an identical corruption score of 36. Thailand has a population of 70 million and corruption is rising. Thailand joined the Philippines and Bahrain out of 180 countries and territories in the survey as the 9th most corrupt countries in Asia. Philippines, with a population of 110 million, struggle to tackle corruption, along with other countries in the Asia-Pacific region. Philippines suffers from widespread corruption, include graft, bribery, embezzlement, backdoor deals, nepotism, and patronage. Bahrain has a small population, less than 2 million. Bahrain corruption comes from the elites within the government. While some officials have been questioned, none have ever been brought to court for charges of corruption. Number 8. Vietnam, Pakistan, and Kazakhstan. These three countries received a corruption score of 33. Vietnam has a population of over 97 million, is characterized by corruption, a weak legal infrastructure, financial unpredictability, and conflicting and negative bureaucratic decision-making. Pakistan has a population of 220 million, and corruption in Pakistan is widespread, particularly in the government and lower levels of police forces. Kazakhstan, a country in Central Asia, has a population of over 18 million, is notoriously corrupt, and much of its wealth is in the hands of the president's extended family and his favored associates. Number 7. Myanmar, Laos, Kyrgyzstan, Lebanon, Russia, and Iran. With a combined population of almost 300 million, receiving an identical score of 29, these 6 countries shared the 7th spot of the most corrupt countries in Asia. Myanmar has a population of 54 million people, and corruption flourishes in every sector of government and business. Red tape is a concern in Myanmar, especially with respect to obtaining firm registration, business licenses and permits from government authorities. It is common in Myanmar to charge illicit payments for government services, to bribe tax collectors to secure a lower tax payment, and to bribe customs officials to avoid paying customs duties. Laos, Kyrgyzstan, and Lebanon both has a small population of 7 million. Lebanon political structure is going through a complex economic and humanitarian endemic, with half the population at the risk of dropping below the poverty line. Lebanon is the world's 3rd most indebted nation. Interest payments use up almost half of government profits, paralyzing public funds. Politicians have stolen people's salaries and livelihoods. Post-Soviet Russia has a population of 146 million, and the rise of oligarchs, and a Wild East capitalism with few rules and threats of violence amid tumultuous political times. I, of course, feel responsible for this mess, said Putin, now in his 20th year in power, when asked about his role on corruption during a televised question and answer show with the public last year. Iran has a population of 84 million, and their leaders frequently attribute the widespread poverty in their country to external factors, such as the sanctions imposed by the US on Iran's nuclear program and banking system. Financial corruption at the top and across the political spectrum has crippled the country. The supreme leader's own financial empire is known to be worth at least $95 billion. Many Iranians have started criticizing the regime and are increasingly expressing anger over the stark divide between rich and poor, and the economic inequality between the elite and ordinary people. The Iranian elite reportedly keep large amounts of their assets in foreign bank accounts. According to Reuters, leaked reports reveal that Khomeini and other family members keep billions of dollars in overseas banks. Number 6. Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, and Bangladesh. These three countries occupy the number 6 spot of the most corrupt countries in Asia, with an identical score of 25. Tajikistan is a landlocked country in Central Asia, with an estimated population of 10 million people. It is bordered by Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and China. Azerbaijan is bounded by the Caspian Sea, Russia, Georgia, Armenia, and Iran. Azerbaijan, like Tajikistan, has an estimated population of 10 million. Bangladesh is located in South Asia, and has a population of over 165 million people. Corruption in Bangladesh has been a continuing problem. According to all major ranking institutions, Bangladesh routinely finds itself among the most corrupt countries in the world. Number 5. Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is the lone country occupying the 5th spot of the most corrupt countries in Asia, with a corruption score of 23. Uzbekistan is located in Central Asia, bordered by Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Kyrgyzstan. Uzbekistan has a population of over 33 million people. Just like its neighbors, Uzbekistan is in the top 10 list of most corrupt country in Asia. Corruption in Uzbekistan is a serious problem. There are laws in place to prevent corruption, but the enforcement is very weak. Low prosecution rates of corrupt officials is another contributing factor to the rampant corruption in Uzbekistan. Number 4. Cambodia and Turkmenistan. Both countries received an identical corruption score of 20, and tied at number 4 of the most corrupt countries in Asia. Cambodia is located in Southeast Asia, and has a population of 17 million people. The CIA's file says that Cambodia is a multi-party democracy. But in practice, its government more closely resembles an authoritarian dictatorship. In addition to corruption by high-level government officials who take massive bribes in exchange for awarding contracts to foreign firms from China, Turkmenistan is located in Central Asia, and has a small population of 6 million people. Turkmenistan remains one of the world's most repressive countries. The country is virtually closed to independent scrutiny. Media and religious freedoms are subject to draconian restrictions, and human rights defenders and other activists face the constant threat of government reprisal. Bordered by Iran, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan lies in a virtual hotbed of corrupt states. Number 3. Iraq. Iraq is located in West Asia. It has a population of over 40 million people. Iraq economy, already fragile prior to the sectarian conflict, has been gravely affected. Iraq received a corruption score of 18. Just like Syria and Yemen, these countries in the Middle East have been suffering brutal civil wars. Iraq has been racked by sectarian conflict, political instability, and warfare. The pullout of US forces has left Iraq a virtual power vacuum, with several different sects fighting for power over the embattled nation. Fighting is mostly concentrated between the Kurds, the Shiites, and the Sunnis, but the arrival of ISIS from Syria is adding to the issues. Iraq's vast wealth and natural resources have made it a target for all kinds of industry and war profiteers. Number 2. Afghanistan. Afghanistan is one of the most corrupt countries on earth. Afghanistan takes the second spot in the list of the most corrupt country in Asia, with a corruption score of 16. Another recent survey carried out by the Asia Foundation found that 70% of Afghans say corruption is a major problem in their daily life. Afghanistan has a population of 39 million people. Corruption in Afghanistan undermines the provision of basic services, enables the production and trafficking of narcotics and fuels instability. In the short term, official development assistance has prevented the collapse of the Afghan state's core functions. Number 1. North Korea, Syria, and Yemen. With a combined population of over 73 million people, these three countries received a corruption score of 14, and are as corrupt as Sudan in Africa. Sudan is the second most corrupt country in the world after Somalia. North Korea is located in East Asia, and remains one of the world's most repressive states. The government restricts all civil and political liberties, including freedom of expression, assembly, association, and religion. It also prohibits all organized political opposition, independent media, civil society, and trade unions. The government and security agencies systematically extract forced, unpaid labor from its citizens, including women, children, detainees, and prisoners, to build infrastructure for the ruling Kim family. Syria and Yemen are situated in West Asia, and both countries has been in a state of civil war since the Arab Spring, and there's no end in sight. Hundreds of thousands of families no longer have a steady source of income. The country's broken economies has worsened the humanitarian crisis. Across the countries, civilians suffer from a lack of basic services, a spiraling economic crisis, abusive local security forces, and broken governance, health, education, and judicial systems. That brings us to the end of today's video, of the most corrupt countries in Asia. Is your country included in this list? If not, congratulations.